to the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm excited to welcome her, Janet Jones Blackhurst, member of the Caesars Entertainment Board of Directors, but also serves with me on the Vegas Chamber.
I do.
So, welcome, Jen, and so good to see you here.
So good to see you too, Jimmy. What a pleasure.
So now, again, most everybody knows you. You were our first female mayor here of our great city. But for our listeners and viewers who haven't heard the story, please share that with us. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? Post-secondary skill acquisition, and maybe your first job.
So I grew up in Santa Monica, California.
Ooh, beautiful.
Very idyllic. I went to public school till the 8th grade when I was sent to Marlboro School for Girls. We were the Marlboro Violets. I graduated from Marlboro and went to Stanford University and got a BA from Stanford and stayed in Northern California. And much to my parents' thrill and delight, after getting my Stanford education, my first job was at a cocktail waitress at the steakhouse in town, which was because my husband was in law school, and it was the best money you could make.
Yes. Wow. And what year did you get here to Southern Nevada?
I came here in 1983, and I came to Southern Nevada because my family owned supermarkets. They were called Thrifty Mart and Smart and Final Iris. Oh. And we had 4 stores in Nevada, in Las Vegas. The rest were in California. And they made no money selling groceries, but they had 48 slot machines, and they made a tremendous amount of money on their slot machines. But my father was very old school. I worked for Thrifty Mart at the time. I did all of their marketing. And he said, I need you to go to Las Vegas for a year and figure out how to market the stores so we make money selling groceries. And I said, okay, I'll go for 1 year. And that was 36 years ago.
Wow, so that is so awesome. Before we rolled the cameras, we were talking about the year you became mayor. And so again, it was a historic event, the first woman to be elected to serve as mayor of Las Vegas. Thankfully, not the last one. We have Carolyn now. But tell us, what made you decide to run? Because again, businesswoman, educated, business community, what fire lit in you to say, I want to go serve?
What's interesting, I'd always been involved politically. We put on then, it was actually very comprehensive, the Governor's Conference on Women. It was with both Northern and Southern Nevada. I was involved in Proposition 7, which codified a woman's right to choose in the Constitution of Nevada. But I was never thought about running for office. And a group of women came to me when Mayor Ron Lurie decided not to run and said, we think you should run for mayor. So I went to the 3 people who run politics in Nevada, who are still the same 3 people who run politics in Nevada. And I said, what would you think if I ran for mayor? And they said, oh, don't be ridiculous. You could never win. And I thought, really? Wow. This is just marketing. This is marketing, and I can tell this story. So I really ran on a dare because they said a woman couldn't win. And in fact, I won in the primary.
Wow.
So they were wrong. Woman could win.
Yes, they were. And was one of them Sig?
One of them was Sig. John Ralston actually in a column called me a huckster.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, we're lucky you decided to run because, again, not only did you do a fantastic job as mayor, but you've paved the way now for other mayors, right?
It's interesting. I believe it's hard to be what you can't see. And when I was elected mayor of Las Vegas, and in such a big way, nobody was expecting it, young women started to believe they could do different things. Yes. And if you look today, Nevada is the first woman majority legislature.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember Barbara Buckley. She was the Speaker of the House.
Yes.
And she was doing affordable housing when I was first elected. And she came to me and said, we need more affordable housing. Will you come with me to the legislature? I said, sure. And she said she got up to the legislature and she looked around and she thought, these people don't look smarter than me. So she ran for office and became Speaker of the House. So
cool.
I think giving people visibility, you can do this job. I can do this job, you can do this job.
Yeah. Another one of your big admirers, I think, and common friends, as you know, part of our team here at Workforce Connections, Irene Bustamante Adams.
She's such a wonderful leader.
We're lucky to have her here. And she was part of that first wave of women legislatures that went up in 2008, I believe it was, with Olivia Diaz and Barbara Buckley. And they, again, now, as you said, it's gone from a smaller group of women to majority women. That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
It's so...
So, Jan, also another, besides making history as our first elected mayor here of our city, I was told by the research team that was, preparing for this podcast that in 2017, the Clark County School District, who we partner with, the superintendent is on our board, because as you know, the K-12 system, even what we call it the education system, it's the first segment of a workforce development pipeline, and it's so important, and we'll talk about it more, but our team told us that in 2017, the district opened the Jones Blackhurst Elementary School. I can't imagine, it's obviously well-deserved, but what does that mean to have a school named after you? I know you're a great advocate for education, so tell us a little bit about what that means for you.
It's a very sobering, humbling honor. I think probably the greatest honor I have been given is to have a school named in my honor. In fact, tonight, I've got 3 of my teachers and the principal coming over. We're celebrating end of summer, so they're coming to the house.
That's nice.
But it's so interesting to go into the school. It's K through 5, and it's a wonderful school. It's up near Mountain's Edge, and the energy in the school. You know, you start to recognize this is everything. Education. And giving a quality of education to our children is what gives them the future. And not a future that we pick, a future that they can pick. And so that basic foundation, to be able to be a part of it, is just something that I treasure. I truly do.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear that you have personal relationships with the principals and the teachers.
I go as much as I can. It's so cute because I walked into the school one day and there were 5 little, they probably were 2nd or 3rd graders, and they're standing by the water fountain, and all of a sudden I hear one of them said, "That's her. Be on your best behavior."
Her name is on the building. Yeah. And so, Jan, let's dive a little bit deeper into this education thing, because as you know, we sit together on the Vegas Chamber, but you've, through your role as a mayor, but also in the business world, you know that in Nevada, we've been in this diversification effort for almost a decade now. It started really being intentional with Governor Sandoval and the group legislators that we were mentioning almost again a decade ago, the creation of GOED, moving that from the Lieutenant Governor's office to the Governor's office. And there's been an intentionality that has paid results. I mean, today, I would imagine that when you were mayor, if somebody were to come to you and say, we're one day going to have an NHL franchise and an NFL franchise, and I'm sure you would have said...
You know what? Even back then, I would have said, we will.
We can do it. Wow.
No question about it. They weren't ready to accept us.
Right.
But we saw nobody can compete with Las Vegas, even with those franchises, because you can bring in tourists, you can fill the stadium, you can use the stadiums in multiple ways, not just for games. No other city can do that.
Yep.
You know, I always sort of laugh when I read these articles saying, stadiums are not economic development. Well, maybe they're not in Cleveland, Ohio, but they are in Las Vegas, Nevada. Allegiant is the highest utilized stadium in the country. They had over 100, and I think it's 86 events, in addition to the Raiders games and the UNLV football games. So it was a brilliant concept. And when they did the draft here, and I know when they do the Super Bowl, you watch, the Super Bowl will come back every 4 years because we know how to move people around.
Yep.
It's seamless, and it's so much less work for the people attending the games and the people putting on the events.
Totally. And I think as we continue to evolve as a city, you talked about moving people around. We're boring tunnels now underneath the city to connect us better.
When I talk to people around the world, and people have this perception of Las Vegas that is just so inaccurate. Even when I was mayor, I had a vision of a monorail that would start at the airport, run all the way down the east side of the Strip, connect to the downtown transportation, come back down the west side of the Strip, and so you could have seamless transportation. Well, of course, the casinos started fighting with each other, so we got the monorail to nowhere. Mm-hmm. But then when we brought in Tesla, that's the boring company, and Steve Hill and the Las Vegas Visitors and Convention Authority saw the wisdom in making that a demonstration project. And if we're successful, and I have no doubt we will be, we will have entirely green energy bored underground, moving people seamlessly. And when I tell people in Europe and in Asia, they're just shocked. And it's because they don't realize when you're an entrepreneurial city, it doesn't just stop with buildings you build. It runs throughout everything in your community.
Yeah, and I love how you said that interconnectivity that you envisioned up here, we just moved it down where we can't see it.
We just moved it down here.
Yeah. And it's going to stop everywhere.
Everywhere.
Airport, Allegiant Stadium.
Yes.
It's amazing.
That's exactly right.
Can't wait to see that finished. To finish the thought on education before we move to the next one, again, in the K through 12 system, we are working hard with them, but also with our industry partners. I think you know this, last year with the Vegas Chamber and the LVGA, we stood up 7 industry sector partnerships for the 7 target sectors for our region. And we worked with employers, small, medium, and large, from each industry. And one of the common challenges that they have, and this is no surprise, we have a labor market shortage, not just because of the reset and the pandemic and how people now view what they expect from work and what they expect for a work-life balance, but also the consequence of decades of lowering birthing rates in our country, lowering immigration rates in our country. And that's kind of how we used to produce our workforce, by importing workers and making babies. And so we've slowed that down. And we also have a generation that's heavy on the retiring age, so more people keep retiring. So it is an issue. And so these employers asked us to really create a more sustainable and robust pipeline with that K through 12 system. In other words, they said, we want those young people, more of them, to graduate work ready at 18. And so again, I know that you, as a advocate for education, you would love to hear that. And what are your thoughts, I guess the question would be, on us changing? Because I heard you say every person needs to choose, because not everybody's going to go to 4-year college or community college or apprenticeships or the military. There's all these routes. So how important is it that we take the information the employers are giving us and embed it in the K through 12 system, not just high school, middle school, but also elementary school?
I have some thoughts on education, and then I will get to answer the question. First of all, I used to say it all the time when I was mayor. You can either spend $6,500 a year to educate a child, or you can spend $43,000 a year to incarcerate a prisoner. Mm-hmm. So your entire focus should be on making sure that your education in your community is meeting the needs of your children. And I really have to say that I think the Clark County School District is unfairly criticized, as is the superintendent, who is one of the hardest working superintendents I know, because we have the most diverse school district in the nation. 56 different languages are spoken in the Clark County School District. Yeah. Over 70% of our children qualify for free lunch. So you can't compare, and you have parents that are second language, that many of them are working 1-2 jobs, would love to help their children, but may not have the skills. So you need to work with both the education of your children and the education of their parents. So when you compare our results to other school districts that are similar in composition to ours, we're not low performing. We're actually in the upper mid level of performance. And so, first of all, I think people need to look at how we do things better and do it in unity, and quit trying to criticize everybody else. You know, you stand in their shoes and see. I mean, as I said, I've been in my school here, 800 K through 5 children. And what happens is, before, the dream was you'd go to high school, then you'd go to college, you'd get out of college and have a great job. Well, you and I both know that's not the reality anymore. You can go all the way through college and have no job at all. And I think it's more important that we teach certainly children the skills, but the confidence to know what it is they would like to do. Are they tactile? Would they be happier working in the trades or HVAC or being a master carpenter or a master plumber? There's so many things. You don't have to be a PhD in psychology to be a success. You need to be a good person and happy in your life and be able to build a sustainable life for yourself and your family to be a happy person. And I think that's what we should be focusing on. How do we make sure we raise our children to have values in school and be good citizens, but then give them the ability to make a choice of what direction is going to give them the most fulfillment? Then we will have done a good job.
Couldn't agree with you more. Janet, after leaving politics, you embarked on a gaming career, if you will.
I did.
Yeah. And again, you became one of the first women to be inducted into the American Gaming Association Hall of Fame. During your career at Caesars, what are some of the things that you're most proud of?
When I first joined, now Caesars has been through a lot of iterations, but when I first joined Caesars, it was owned by Harrah's. And their CEO was Phil Satry, who's now the chairman of WIN, who was a classmate of mine at Stanford.
Wow.
And Phil called me. I had run for governor, lost the race, and decided that I wasn't going to run a third term. So I was working with the Convention Authority and the Resort Association. I got a call from Phil saying, look, I have this job. He's going to run all the corporate communications, corporate social responsibility, government relations. Are you interested? And I thought, sure, I could do that.
I can do that.
It's not so different than being mayor, different stakeholders, but same sort of messages. And so the first program I put in place, and to Phil's credit, he was a big supporter, was what we called the Code of Conduct. And it was a code that made promises to our employees that their jobs would be fulfilling, good paying jobs and career opportunities, that our communities, that we would give back to them, that we would be philanthropic, and to our customers that we would be responsible, that we would practice responsible gaming programs. And when I first proposed it, you would be amazed. The whole industry said, you can't say that, how do you know? I said, I can't say that. Of course, well, we don't want to live to those standards. And I thought, why would you not want to live to those standards? And so we did. We put it in place, and of course the industry followed, because once someone else was out there saying, here's the standards we're going to live to, everybody wants to match it. And so I really believe that one of the things I'm most proud of in the industry was bringing a sense of humanity. It's not just about the money you make. It's about the lives you create. It's about the community that you reinforce. It's about the responsibility. So many of our employees, they worry, are we doing the right thing? So giving them training in responsible gaming practices, empowering them to be able to take an action if they see a person in trouble is really important. And businesses are so silly in my mind. If your employees are happy, if your communities are happy, you're going to make more money. Don't just focus on the money you're making. If you're making sure that all ships rise, everybody will benefit, including your business.
That's awesome, Janet. I think, again, those of us who know you in the multi-facets of, your life, you were a business owner, ran businesses, ran a city, again, now corporate executive for many years, philanthropist, but you also dedicate, again, your time as a board of trustee at the Vegas Chamber. We don't get paid, but you believe that's important to make sure businesses have a voice. You've
got to give businesses a voice, particularly small business. It's easy to hear the voices of the big integrated resorts on the Las Vegas Strip. But the small businesses who are an integral part of this community and finding ways that when visitors come, that they can benefit as well. Right now, I'm working with Mary Beth and some others on, we call it the Corporate Combine, which is getting ready for the Super Bowl, of how can we come up with an app where small business, when people are coming in and looking, well, where could I stay off the Strip, or where could I hold an event, or Where is
Hire
a good
catering.
local restaurant? Yes, hire catering. Where do I go? Because now that we're going to be bringing in Super Bowl, F1, the soccer championships, we have so many events. Small business should benefit as well. So we need to look how we make, everybody knows where the Strip is. I want people to know where the rest of the community is.
I love it. When is that project? Obviously, it's got to be complete before the Super Bowl.
We're working on it right now.
Very good. That's awesome. Before I move to your personal life, I wanted to, the last question about your professional, maybe some professional advice. If you think about young women in the gaming industry, maybe beginning their career, but they look at Janet Jones Blackhurst and like, wow, that's my goal. What advice would you have for young women just starting today?
Confidence. If I'll look at a job, when I ran for mayor, I had no background in politics. I'd never run a city. Did it ever occur to me that I couldn't do that job? Absolutely not. In fact, it's so interesting. The day that after I was elected, I went to City Hall, and there's 10 department heads, and they each have a briefing book that's about a foot thick. I took them all home, and I read every single one, because I wanted to know what people were doing. So some of it is confidence. I'll look at women. A man will look at a job, and if he meets 40% of the requirements, he'll go, I got this. A woman will look at it and think, well, I've only got about 90%, so maybe I better wait. So I really tell young women, stretch. Look at your skills. Look at what you think you're good at, and then try to match that with a job. And then use your confidence in your voice, not strident, to put yourself at the table. And then don't be afraid to realize you're just as capable of doing that job as anyone else sitting next to you.
That first day was the old City Hall, right? Which is now the Zappos building.
Yes.
Is that right? And who was the city manager back then?
Bill Noonan.
Wow.
Bill Noonan.
Who retired from Boyd.
Yes. He was.
And Paul Anderson has that job now.
That's right.
Wow. That's awesome.
He was newly hired, and he was the new city manager, and I was the new mayor.
Wow. And who did you hand over the keys of the city or that job to Oscar?
Oscar.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Oscar ran and was, again, not expected to win, and did, and enjoyed being mayor immensely. And now Carolyn's been mayor, and Carolyn and I started the Meadow School together.
Yes, the Mustangs.
Many years ago, yes.
Wow. Yeah, that school, again, reputation for, highest quality education. But more than that, I think also they did such a great job with the athletics. I used to go there because one of my best friend's son played tennis there. And that program was nationally renowned for the talent they were putting out.
Right.
Janet, the next question has to do more with you personally, because we all know you're a hard worker, those of us who get to know you and see how passionate you are about work. But what does the perfect day of relaxation look for you? If there is one.
You know what's interesting is I'm blessed to do a lot of different things. I sit on the Caesars board. I sit on a couple of other private equity boards. So that gives my business interest. I chair the Public Education Foundation and the Nevada Donor Network, which is looking to expand our ability to do transplants in Nevada. I sit on the Animal Foundation, Sunrise Hospital, 50-50 women on boards, and that sort of does my philanthropic. And then I run the Center of Innovation for Women at Blackfire for the university. So
you don't have any relaxation, Jenna.
But in many ways, that's sort of relaxing to me. I love to ski. I love to read. I love horses. If I was ever going to not live where I live now, I'd go find a little ranch and get my horses and cows and chickens and goats.
But we have some land here in North Las Vegas that can accommodate all that, right?
It can.
Very good. I think, I don't know if you are aware, but I'm so happy to hear. I'm going to make sure Irene maybe does a presentation to the full board one day at the Public Education Foundation, but we're working with them. Workforce Connections is, and CCSD to try to invest some of our resources to moving folks in the schools from the, what are they called? They're kind of like the help roles. They're not teachers, but they're...
Oh, you're working with you on that. There's such a teacher shortage in Southern Nevada. So we looked at the support staff.
Thank you,
and
support staff.
They already are in the schools. They love the schools. They live here. And if those that are interested in getting their teaching degrees, the percentage that will come back and stay in the school district is exponentially higher than if you go out and recruit. They come, they stay a couple of years, and they leave. So this is a program we've been working on with Workforce Connections and the University and Public Education Foundation and CCSD to identify those employees, give them the support so that they can afford to get their degree in education and still keep their job so they have a little longer runway. And then give them the opportunity to be teachers, which is what they aspire to, but they just didn't see the path to get there.
Yeah, I'm glad you knew about it. I'm gonna, Irene has been headed for us, has been our point of contact, working with Kristen over there at the Public Education Foundation, and so I'm happy you're aware.
It's a wonderful model. We tried to get it a little bigger at this year's legislature, but there were a lot of people competing for a limited resource, but we did get $1 million grant.
Yes, and I think
to help
that's
support this.
As you said, we're committed to working very hard to demonstrate the value, and then go back and say, here's X amount of people we've moved from here to here. Here's the benefit. Let us do more.
Exactly. They're staying in the schools and they're invested in the district, so it's a great program.
So, Janet, if not working, and it sounds like you do a lot of working, and if not relaxing, skiing, or with horses, chickens, and and cows, where else will we find you? How else do you spend your time? I'm starting to think there is no more time left in the day, because I can't believe how many things you're doing. But is there another part of you that we don't know about yet?
Well, I do a lot of events to promote people running for office, because I really believe you get what you vote for. People love to criticize government. They love to dislike their elected official. But it's up to you. You're the voice. You have the vote. So I really try to give young, up-and-coming or established elected officials a platform, help them raise money, give them a voice. I'm a big believer in democracy. I think we have the best system in the world. And I think getting it back to a spirited but rational discourse is something that's in all of our best interest.
Badly needed. If anything, I remember those days. There's always been, as you just said, two sides of the aisle, and these and the R's and the blues and the reds. But back then, when you would reach out
together.
Yes.
I mean, even I spent so much time in Washington, D.C. because of gaming, and so much time in both blue and red states. There was never this sense of distrust and anger and disbelief. You found a middle road. It may not have been perfect. Nobody got exactly what they wanted, but everybody got enough of what they wanted so you could move forward. And I think it's really important that we get back there, both as a community. We're pretty good in Nevada. We're
better than others.
I believe that. But I think as a country, it's very important.
I think so, too. And we have good, now that I remember, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I vaguely remember when Shelley announced her candidacy, Shelley Berkeley for mayor, I remember seeing...
I did the kickoff.
Yes.
I did.
Now that
And it was really interesting. We probably had over 250 people at my house, and it was like old Las Vegas home week. There were people who hadn't seen each other, and in fact, I saw Shelley last night. She's such an exemplary public service servant.
Absolutely.
She is a true believer and tireless and wonderful at her craft. So I hope she wins, which doesn't mean there aren't other good candidates in the race.
Yeah.
It's just Shelley's been a long term friend of mine.
Yes, he's on our list to come here and sit down, because she has some of the greatest stories. Just last meeting at the LVGA, she announced that she was going to step down and let somebody else from Toro take that spot because she has to concentrate on this race. But I love her stories. How when she was at UNLV, the mascot story, it's all of them. And I think now I'm starting to think. Last time I spoke to Carolyn, I always said some of my favorite memories of her and Oscar is when you get to sit down with them, whether it's for a meal or a coffee or something. They are so entertaining. They're a show.
They are like a show.
And I always tell them, you guys need to, and these philanthropic events, put that on a thing. You know how people bid for stuff? I would bid for that every day.
Hey, listen, you can come. Just bring me a $250 check.
I think you should need to put those too. Dinner with Jen at her house. Oh my goodness, you would make a lot of money. But Jenna, I want to thank you for coming here, and I want to tell you, as just my voice and on behalf of the organization, we're blessed that you are still so involved. Again, you've given so much already, publicly, privately. But just talking and knowing that you are aware of what we're doing with the PEF and your role as chair, I'm excited about maybe finding more things to do and capitalize on your wisdom and your passion for trying to make sure that the businesses in our region have the workforce they need. It's a big task.
It's a big task, but we can do it.
Yeah.
What I've always said about Las Vegas, and I'm so proud to be a part of this community, we're the last outpost of Western civilization. We have that entrepreneurial spirit and vision and can-do attitude that if we harness it, there's nothing we can't achieve.
I love it. What a way to end the podcast. Janet, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I hope that we, can have you again back soon.
I'll come with Shelley. We'll have fun.
That's awesome. That's it for another episode of the WC Podcast. We hope to see you on another one. Until then, stay safe. Okay, Janet, thank you for staying over doing our bonus segment called Against the Wall. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The first section is called Your Favorites. Tell me your favorite food.
Macaroni and cheese.
Your favorite meal that you cook.
Oh, bolognese, lamb shanks.
Oh, you're making me hungry now. Wow, that sounds amazing.
Steak.
Your favorite musical group or artist?
Probably Talking Heads.
Wow.
Prince. I love Prince.
That's awesome.
I love Bocelli.
Andrea Bocelli. Wow. Those are all good ones.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is The Princess Bride. It's got everything: good, evil.
Yes.
Love.
Yes. Your favorite book?
My favorite book may be Team of Rivals.
Wow. That's a good one. Your favorite holiday?
Oh, Thanksgiving, hands down.
Yeah. Your favorite sports team?
The Raiders.
And that is the first section, your favorites. You pass with flying colors. The second one is called Tough Choices. Are you ready?
Yep.
Vacation or staycation?
Oh, vacation.
And do you drive to your vacation or would you rather fly there?
Fly.
And once you get there, stay in a hotel or an Airbnb?
Oh, definitely a 5-star hotel.
Glamping. No. Would you rather spend a day by the ocean or hiking in the mountains? Ocean. I had you at ocean. When you retire, and you made a reference to this, are you going to retire on a ranch or in the city?
I'd like to have a ranch and a condo in the city.
Both. Why not? Absolutely.
That's why I keep working.
This is a tough one. Actions or words?
Actions.
Justice or grace?
Justice.
Yes. So you made it through the second session called Tough Choices. The last one is called Finish the Sentence. I'm going to give you about 90% and you'll finish it for me. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
If Janet could visit any place in the world, it would be?
I've been there.
You've been
but
to
one
a
of
lot
my
of places.
favorite was Bali.
Oh, wow.
Bali was a beautiful, magical, spiritual place.
You'll go back.
I would go back.
Awesome. The best part of living in Southern Nevada is?
It's people.
And Janet's favorite thing about her job is?
It's people.
If Janet could travel back in time to another period, she would travel to?
I would go back to when we were first doing women's right to vote. And the one thing they never got in place was equal pay and equal representation, because they picked vote because they couldn't win them all. I would go back and make sure they got both the vote and equal pay for women.
That's awesome. I'm like we were talking earlier off camera, it's so amazing that today we're still haven't fixed that.
25 years ago, I used to say in my speeches that white women earn 78 cents on the dollar to their male counterpart. African American women earn 68 cents.
Wow.
Latino women earn 58 cents. It has not changed in all that time.
That's an amazing stat.
The disparity.
Wow. Well, Janet, you're going to give me 3 words that describe you. And the first one is?
Passionate.
Yes.
True believer in the potential goodness of people and politics. And funny.
Awesome. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. And Janet, doing the WC podcast here today with us was?
Just a delight.
Well, thank you.